So, how do you do design research? When I was actually writing this, it was quite difficult to like have all these things that I learned for about 3 years to put them in one. So I'll try my best, and you can ask me questions or stop me at any time. Basically, you have to think of research as in the data that you have in two different kinds. So there's quantitative and there's qualitative. Quantitative is all about measurements, it's all about numbers, variables, and the relationship to one another. It's objective and it's logical. It's purely science, pretty much. So when you say that 78% of people have internet connection, their age is between 25 and 35, they get so much and so much money, they work 5 days a week. This is how you're getting your data in the form of quantity. Now, you can have qualitative data as well, even for the same information, which is something that design research is more concerned with, because we feel that the quality is more important. So this deals with subjective data, which are words, images, video, sound, and their interpretations. So instead of saying 78% do this, you can say they spend most of their free time on Facebook, for example. And you can say they're young adults. And instead of saying how much they make, you can say that they enjoy going out once to twice a week. This is basically on how you actually receive information and how you interpret it. And you see later on this will actually help for people because it's what actually creates insight, which is the most important thing for design research to actually get to the design process. So, here are a list of all the different methods that, there's a lot more, but these are ones that I've gotten used to using and I think they're the most valid. So I'll go over them, and then what I'm going to do is that I pick one project that has most of these in them, and I'll explain how it went through and what the results were. There's a really big problem when you're studying design research, is because lots of people do research for a very long time, and sometimes they lose the point and they don't know where it's going. So it's always good to always have an aim to what you're doing. So, passive and participant observation. These are basically methods taken from ethnography. This means that either like you sit at a certain place, in a place of where you want to make your research and inquiry, and you have a certain idea in your head. For example, once we were researching, for absolutely no reason at all, for 1 week, private moments in public spaces. So you would just sit there and you would start to think, what makes this person's behavior public? What does he do to make it private? This is a passive kind of observation where they don't know that they're actually observing. Participant observation is different because then a person can actually take you into their lives and you want to say, I don't know, research how they use the Hoover, for example. So if they let you actually do this proper kind of research, which is the best kind of research, is that you could go and stay with them for a few days, say, if they let you, and you basically see all the time how they use the Hoover, where they store it, what problems they have with it, and every single step of the way you record it. And eventually you will see, there's a certain issue here that I can fix. There's something here that I can design better. Structured and semi-structured interviews. This is quite obvious. Videotaping and photography. Very, very important. You should always definitely, in all your process, always do that. Participatory methods are a bit more complex, but it means that the person who is doing the research works with the person that they are researching, works with the shareholders, works with the client or whoever they are, and they constantly redefine the design process in a participatory manner. Culture probes is something that I will talk to you later on because it's a project that we're currently working on with the MENA Design Research Center, which is where I work now, by the way. Visual explorations are also very important, and it's kind of like a second step after gathering this information. Because then what we do is usually we go out there in the field and we do loads of research. And then you have to find every single possible way to visually put it out there. Because once you visually put it out there, then you start to see the connections, then you can start drawing conclusions. Surveys and questionnaires. Also really important. Not as important as interviews, but it's definitely a sort of statistical data market. Web analytics, which is something that Nabu can do for you. Demographics. Obviously, this is demographics, basic age, how much income they have, and all that. Psychographics is like demographics, but instead it's based on people's like religious beliefs or opinions or tastes. And literature review is probably, till now, what most of you do as research, which is going online and checking books and all sorts of media. Personas is after you actually get a few ideas of different niches or groups of people that you are dealing with, you create a persona for them. So a group of people who have kind of the same attributes that interest you as a target audience in a way is someone that you would create a persona for. Lots of designers don't like that. Usability testing. Usability testing goes both ways. Well, it's basically either if there's an already existing system or design or program, you use it and you see what you would fix about it. Or you create one, or a solution for example, and then you test that on your researchers. Statistical data collection and focus groups. This is quite clear. Okay, so any questions so far?
It is quite thorough covering of a lot of information. It's good for them.
Okay, so first this is how you do. So we pick the appropriate method. So basically now you have a project, which is like go and solve this thing, go in there, find the problem, solve it. So first thing you have to do is you have to figure out which methods are best that suit your needs. And second, you have to collect the information, you have to visualize it, and you have to analyze it. Bear in mind that when it's qualitative data, it doesn't really matter that you get like 100 people that you're talking to. Because this is based on quality and it's based on insight. Sometimes if you spend enough time with just 5 people, they can give you more solutions than a zillion questionnaires. So always keep that in mind, it's not about quantity. So you visualize it, you analyze it, and then you start to derive key insights and you develop solutions. So when we're creating a system for user experience, for example, of a certain system, and like we're saying, oh, so this happened, so we talked to this person, and they said, yeah, this went fine, and then here we just lost contact, and you'd be like, okay, so here there's a little glitch missing. We have to find a way to make the system work again. In this case, we should probably integrate phone calls, for example. Okay, so I decided to take one of the longest research projects that I worked in, and this was in Scotland a couple of years ago. And this is basically, it was so heavy research that after this project, I think I can work on any project. So it took about 6 months daily, and we were a team of about 20 people working on it. And the research methods that we used are observation, surveys, interviews, photography, visual exploration, so on and so forth, things like that. So basically, the idea was that we wanted to help the youth make the right career path. And what we did is that we actually, the school that we're working with got an NGO or non-profit governmental organization that was called Career Scotland. And they already had this help center where they guided students or people who didn't have jobs. But the thing was, it really wasn't working. So they told us, all right, go out there, do your research, and come up with some solutions. So this team, obviously, it's also a lot better when you do research in a multidisciplinary team, because you get to work with sociologists, graphic designers, communication designers, architects, interior designers, product designers. Everyone has something to put in it, and it finally really becomes complete as a whole circle of solutions. So we had to go out to some colleges.